Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and our today guests are Dr. Milan Sambrak. Welcome to the show, Milan.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Have you and Jim Eat from Eat Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. It's great to be here.
So we are now back to our Green Wednesdays. And it's so green that cannot be even any more greener than it's already. It's green all over the place. I saw one red on your screen. What
Yes.
is it?
PG&E. It's still above where I bought it, but I bought it after all the wildfires and all of the suits and all that kind of stuff. It was punished far below its value, and so I bought it then, and it's not reached my target price, so I still own it.
Yeah, it will take time, and it will turn into green, and then you will take your profits. So that's a wonderful strategy. You know how you're doing. S&P 500 is on a run, and you're selling covered calls and making more and more money, right?
You know, the interesting thing is that most investors fail to equal the market. I will now teach our viewers how to equal the market. It'll take a very long time, so sit down. Here it is. Buy SPY and hold it. That's all there's to it. However, Wall Street wants us to think that what they do is brain surgery and rocket science, and we need them. They complicate issues. You know that during any 30-year period, the U.S. stock market has gone up about 1,000%. During that same period, the average mutual fund holder has made 250%. Where's the difference? You know that fees now are so low you can ignore them, but there are what I call hidden fees in mutual funds, and the list is quite long. And so Wall Street pushes them because they make so much money there. If you ask anybody on the street what a mutual fund is, they will know. Ask them what an exchange traded fund is, and most people wouldn't know. So, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. I don't think I can pass it on to you, can I?
No.
Okay.
Other viruses, but no, not that one.
All right. So that's really bothersome to me that the market has done so well. People can do so well just by buying SPY and holding it, whereas most people fail to equal the market. Most people trail the market, and it shouldn't be. But the reason is that they're attempting to beat the market, like you are, James, and much of the time you can, but much of the time you cannot, by buying individual stocks instead of simply holding the market. And Wall Street is getting fatter and fatter. And so that's what I call legal crime. What they're doing is legal, but it is criminal when you think about its effect on society. So,
Accusation, but okay, I'll let our listeners to decide for themselves who is a Wall Street, how they're making you to buy more stocks or whatever. You know, I can't verify what you're saying, and I'm not. I don't feel it. I mean, I've been in the market for quite a long time. And, since I implemented my newest strategy, I'm up a very considerable amount, both in dollars and in percentages, all over the place. Any way you look at it, it's a third year straight that my profits are each year is exceeding the previous year. Because
Sasha, I mentioned this before, and you're exceptional. And they're exceptional people. I think James is also exceptional. And you're not the average investor. And you spend a lot of time at it too. You like what you're doing. If you like what you're doing, it's not really work. You can spend a lot of time at it because you like doing it. But that does not apply to the average investor who could easily equal the U.S. market. Easily.
But tell me, if I were an average investor, would I run this show for now probably 4, if not 5 years? I wouldn't do it. And if I want to cater to average investor, and if I'm making 240% a year,
wow,
I will start telling you know what, forget about what I'm doing. Just do S&P 500. you'll make your 6-7%, and it's safe, and do that. So people will ask me, so how come you're making 240% a year and you're telling me, average investor, to make only 6% a year? That's not fair. I want to make, if not 240, at least half of it, 120 will be more than enough. And even a quarter of it, 60% will be more than enough. But you're telling me, no, take 6%, forget about 60%, 120%,
Yeah.
240%.
Well, there is something to what
Not
Milan
allow
is
you
saying
to do it.
in terms of there are white collar crime that's being committed on Wall Street. I think all the time. What gets me is one of the people that they actually prosecuted was Martha Stewart, for crying out loud. All the criminal activity that's going on in terms of hiding the truth from investors and all of that sort of thing is fairly commonplace. And to pick on someone like her as an example just boggled my mind. You know, they're not really doing their jobs. They're going after public figures that they don't think belong in this. And her insider trading is a joke compared to some of the insider trading that's really going on.
Well,
So both of you are right, as usual.
what you're saying, James, is also right, except Martha Stewart is a crook. By any stretch of the imagination, she's a crook. What's to admire about that? And Americans, I don't know about it's Americans, probably most people find it so easy to forget crooks. They elected Donald Trump, who is a crook. He should be in jail. He got elected. Americans can do that. Martha Stewart is a crook. And not a big crook, but nevertheless, she puts herself ahead of ethical behavior.
Yeah, but
so now 6%, Sasha, 6%, inflation adjusted. The stock market has returned 6%. What more do you want? Suppose that somebody starts saving early, and they should start saving early, and they say that's difficult. Actually, the most difficult part is saving. 10% is difficult. Save 5%, save 3%, but start early. There are three factors which enter into the amount of savings that we accumulate. Number one is the amount of money you put in, of course. Number two, the interest rate that money makes. And number three is the length of time that it's cooking. And of those three, the length of time is the most important. Of course, the more money you put in, the more you're going to save, the higher the interest rate, the higher returns you're going to get. But if you start early and put in 3% if you need to, but the length of time that the situation cooks is the most important. Start early. Tell your kids, tell your grandchildren. You're not a saver, Sasha, but most people should be.
Never been saver in my life.
Yeah,
Never.
Okay. And it has worked for you. Congratulations. It wouldn't work for most people. For most people, it wouldn't work. So tell them to start early. Save 3% if you need to, but start early. That's important. And then over the course of a lifetime, putting that kind of money into the American market, which is very simple, by SPY, they will have accumulated a sufficiently large amount of money to be able to continue their lifestyle in retirement. What's wrong with continuing your lifestyle in retirement?
I'll tell you what's wrong. Because of NVIDIA, I'm able to go on all luxury 5 stars, all-inclusive holidays a few times a year. And I'm not even taking anything out of my account, by the way. So it's coming naturally. Now, if I were investing in S&P, making 6% a year, I would probably go to 3 stars hotel in Cuba rather than 5 stars in Aruba. That's all the difference. Otherwise, it's all the same.
Sasha, what's wrong with what I described? Start saving early, 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever you can.
I'll tell you what's wrong.
Hang on. Do it for a lifetime, and then in retirement, continue your lifestyle. Okay. In retirement, continue your lifestyle. That's admirable for anybody.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, let me phrase it properly. What's happened if your lifestyle was not satisfactory for your last 45 years? And finally, you've learned something on this program that can changed everything. Look at you know what? How about Donald Trump? Donald Trump had extremely difficult life. He was screwing people, fighting everybody. He was trying to survive. By year 2000, his net worth was minus $250 million. So he was, thanks to Russian oligarchs' money, and later on Saudi Arabia money, he got out of this situation. So at least he could survive. And finally, in the last few days, when his friends taught him how to make money in cryptocurrency, and thanks to that, whatever his coin is, he made about $50 billion in a few days. Now, why is it significant? First of all, he is no longer needs to worry about his financial well-being. It's all done. It's good now for us and for American people in general, simply because he's not going to be suspected to operating under the impression of all kind of possible financial dealings with Putin, some other criminals or so on, because he doesn't need it anymore. He's made it, baby. He is there. So no longer can anybody influence him. He is now in his right mind. He's a real billionaire now.
The thing you have to look at is what applies to most people, not to certain outstanding individuals. If Donald Trump had taken his inheritance and simply bought SPY, he would be better out today. Yeah.
Talking about the influence, you remember the Miller Lite controversy? Everybody was against Miller Lite. Donald Trump was very vocal on his media against Miller Lite, and all of a sudden, Anheuser-Busch, the company that owns Miller Lite, made a campaign, organized a campaign fund for Trump, and all of a sudden that stuff stopped. So it's easy to buy influence if you raise campaign money for somebody like Donald Trump.
Look at you,
a billionaire may he be, very influenced by campaign money.
Look at where is Meta today. It was $580 some just 2 weeks ago. It's now high flying 630 and going much higher than that. Why? Zuckerberg contributed to the inauguration in the tune of $1 million. It was a price, not 900,000, not 800,000, $1 million. Otherwise, I'm not going to talk to you. Okay, Mr. Trump, here's $1 million. What else would you like me to do?
Buy influence.
They're all buying influence. So this is type of, I don't know how long it's going to be. Because
but to talk about one of your favorite subjects, Sasha, in the video, it crossed over the 145 mark today.
147.
Yeah, and so right now it's at 146.76.
Okay.
And that to me is a sign that to me, I was always looking at how low would it go, how high could it go. And it seemed like 145 was one of those barriers that it would run up against and then come back down. And so, I'm not a technical analyst at all, but I've been noticing that it's actually crossed 150, but it seems to be trading within a range now. And is that your sense of it as well? Like 135 to maybe 150, but it's pushing up against setting new highs.
My sense of it is NVIDIA will go to way much higher levels than this. Mm-hmm. It will stay there, but don't forget that in February, I think around 20th, there is an earnings report. And that's very important report because it will be full-blown view on a Blackwell chips and so on, and many other things. So I think it will probably go to, before earnings, it will probably go to 160 or thereabout. And on earnings, if it's spectacular earnings, will shoot to 190. If it's not, it will go back to 150 and stay there for a while. And there is also possibility that regardless of their earnings, the market movement overall will bring NVIDIA to higher levels. Now, it's not going to be at 190.
Sasha,
It's going to be
Sasha,
155, 60 for sure.
question for you, Sasha, and for you, James. Can everybody on the planet prosper doing what you are doing with NVIDIA? Everybody on the planet. Is it possible?
Milan, you know what? I have a lot of difficulties with your conception that somehow you believe that we have to worry about an average investor who I'm not even sure is listening to our shows at all. So somehow on the back of your mind or my mind or Jim's mind, we have to worry. No, forget about they're making 240%. Okay, it's all garbage. The average investor, we have to fight for his right to make his 6%, maybe even 6.5%, in some cases 7%. That's what we should try. You know what? Exclude me from this. I'm not going to worry about average investor. I don't care whether he's going to make 6% or 7% or even 17%. I really don't. It's the last thing what I would worry about.
Interestingly, Sasha, I do care about the average investor because the average investor can do very well and maintain his lifestyle.
Why would they worry about lifestyle of average investor? I'm worried about my lifestyle.
The average investor
Don't worry about average investor. Let him do whatever he or she want to do. I really don't care, my friend, average investor. I really don't care for your lifestyle. Okay, please excuse me.
But what you're doing, Sasha, is not possible for many people. It's not. You know, picking stocks doesn't work. You're picking stocks. You're picking stock. Picking stock doesn't work.
Listen.
Yeah.
Average investor, average person, for example, they would like to listen to rap music. Okay. And majority of people, probably 95% of people, love to listen to rap music.
Really, Sasha?
Yes.
You're a musician. I'm an
Yes.
amateur musician. I love all styles of music except rap. Rap is offensive.
But I'm talking about average listener here in
And the average listener listens to rap?
rap. Average listener listen to rap.
It's very popular.
95%, even those who don't admit that they're listening to rap, they do listen to rap. Now,
Where do you get that information from?
From elsewhere, from social sites, from some people I even interviewed about their musical tastes or so on. Now, I'll tell you one thing. For the last 2 weeks, I was listening to nothing more or nothing less than last 3 piano sonatas of Beethoven. Now, this I have listened to several different interpretations. I found one where they have the sheet music running around while you are listening. I think it was a German pianist, Kempf. But he is playing all 32 sonatas, but I'm interested only in the last 3. So I was listening to his music, to his playing, and there was a sheet music going together with his playing. So I know the 3 sonatas now. Now, what's interesting thing about 3 sonatas is that you are listening to them all together, one, the next one, and the last one. And you're listening, it's like one unit. Although they are separated, they are different opuses. There's opus 109, opus 110, and opus 111. 3 different opuses. So, but still, essentially, the 3 sonatas, that's his way of saying goodbye to his life on Earth, because obviously he was already getting closer to his critical illness. Actually, he was already very ill. Never mind that he couldn't hear anything while he was writing the 3 sonatas. But they're so revolutionary. They're so beautiful, each in its own right. I can, even now, today, I can't tell you which one I love more of the 3. I really can.
Sasha, you say the average listener listens to rap. When Beethoven died, he had the longest funeral in Viennese history, unmatched before or since. That's the average person following Beethoven, to the extent that they have this funeral for him that's been unmatched. That's
Good. It was pre-rap music, I guess, right?
Oh, pre-rap. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Because had they heard a rap, they would have never listened to Beethoven.
Pre-rap and everything like that. To your point, Sasha, when two rappers were in battle with each other and they're no longer around, but definitely Jim will know what I'm talking about. A number of people were following the whole dialogue between Tupac and Biggie and everything like that. And it wasn't just the African American community, because I can tell you that I live around the corner from Duke, and to your point, Sasha, I can guarantee you that if a car goes by me, there is a good possibility that it will be playing what is considered rap or what is considered hip hop. And if there was a time that I was shocked because you would turn around and you would expect it would be an African American that would be listening to the music, but oftentimes it is a European American or an Asian American or somebody else like that. But I did have a question for the both of you. It's somewhat related and somewhat not, but it ties into investment and everything like that. As Jim knows, and I think you know, Sasha, I am a fan of a certain basketball team because I went to the university and everything. So I'm a fan of Marquette, and we have a great coach and all along those lines. But even he recently in his last press conference said he does not understand the NIL market, because a lot of these athletes are making money off of NIL. They're making tons of money. So even he said, and he's a great coach, that he doesn't understand that market. He doesn't know what to tell his coaches, his players and everything like that. So I'm asking you, Sasha, and I'm asking you, Milan, and Jim, Eid, and everything. What should he do? Should he invest in S&P 400 the way that you say, Milan, or should he to take the advice and have his athletes listen to this show so they can make some money off of what Sasha and Jim are saying? So I'm letting y'all tell me so I can pass the word on. Hopefully he's watching the show, or I can at least get it to him since I am a good alumni and all along those lines.
Well, Mark, I attended a class at Stanford Continuing Education last night, taught by Coach Tara Vanderveer, one of the winningest coaches of all time. She set the record for wins, even over Coach K. It was since broken by the UK University of Connecticut coach. But in any case, she addressed the NIL issue. And what this is the ability for players to be compensated for their name, image, and likeness, NIL. And so the players now, and this has also led to transfers. It used to be if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. That's gone. So players can go where the money is, where the national image and name, image, and likeness can be used even as undergraduates. And you probably see Cameron Brink, a former great player from Stanford and WNBA star, on New Balance commercials. So, they're making some serious money, and they can transfer to schools to make more money. And, a lot of people, athletes in particular, can make a lot of money and have no idea what to do with it and end up their later years bankrupt.
Most of them,
so if they did what Milan is suggesting, they would be secure because they get that much money that early. And if they did what Sasha and I do, they would have to pay attention to what they're doing, have fun while they're doing it. And if they are not going to be having fun, don't do it.
They're not cut out for it. They're not cut out for it. Most of them die broke. Boxers, champion boxers, made more money than anybody in history. Every one of them died broke, except Rocky Marciano, the Italian guy, and his wife managed the money. And so he did all right. Every one of them died broke. What was the name of that famous boxer?
Joe Louis.
Joe Louis. The fans had to raise money for him to pay his income taxes. So they're not into it. They should be doing what I'm recommending, as you say, Jim. Put their money into the American market and hold it and continue your lifestyle. If you have a lifestyle that you don't like, work on improving your lifestyle by getting some additional education and that sort of stuff. But don't try to do it by investing, because doing it by investing works for a very small number of people.
But there's some of these, I'm a fan of Stanford basketball, and so Stanford is an exception in that some of these people are remarkable people beyond their ability on the court, and they can do what Sasha and I do. There's no question about it. But I agree with Milan that the majority of them cannot. Hire a financial advisor, even if you have to pay them. This is a way to preserve your money. And Sasha and I both agree, preservation of capital is the first thing. You don't want to lose money. It has to be discretionary funds. You don't want to have to short yourself on groceries or something like that because you lost money in the market. This is the money you can afford to lose. That's the kind of thing that you're playing with. And
Sasha Starr's favorite investor, Warren Buffett, says 2 rules. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, remember rule number 1.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Even that rule, let me comment on that. That rule is it's a good practical tool, but it's not correct always, because in a market like this, and if you remember, I predicted this market about a week ago on Monday. I said that there was the bottom, and from that point on, the market will go straight up, much higher levels. So if at that point you are not fully invested, you are fooling yourself and your family and your
the Nasdaq is over 20,000. I still can't get over that. The market is at incredible levels, and we've talked about this on previous shows, Sasha. It could be overvalued, but we look at the revenue, and these earnings reports come out, and sometimes the stock goes down a little bit because the expectations were through the roof and they were only great. But it's not until the revenue dries up that I'm going to be worried. And
so, Jim, what's your opinion? Except that this also talking heads who are saying that the market is overvalued, it has to correct itself, or so on. What other earnings or any other numbers would convince you that it's overbought and therefore you have lightened your positions?
Well, I think for me, and this is just for me, I know that the markets don't like uncertainty. So I sold some stock before the election in August, anticipating choppiness that I don't like. But I'm pretty well, my cash, my investments exceed my cash value right now. And the only thing that I'm particularly worried about is Trump talking about tariffs against Canada and Mexico. And, just because Democrats passed the NAFTA, and so this is not smart thinking. This is just petulance. And so, his idea of falling in love with tariffs only hurts the American consumer. And it doesn't hurt the other countries, or the companies that are in other countries. But it might hurt the auto industry, for example, if he puts tariffs on Canada. So there's only pain and suffering that comes from levying tariffs willy-nilly without reason. And so this could affect certain stocks. But my thing is I'm looking at certain sectors and the revenue generating prospects for those sectors. And what the general sector is semiconductors, which NVIDIA and Marvel MRVL both fit into. But the primary generator of revenue is AI. And I don't see that changing. So these companies are still going to report record earnings, even though they're considered to be overpriced now. And when the record earnings come in, when they report their numbers, the stocks keep going up. I look at the Marvel ticker tape, man, it's just in this direction. And I don't see that going on forever, but I don't see any reason to think it's going to stop soon.
Some people believe
you're right about saying it won't go on forever. Over the last couple of 100 years, the stock market has equaled roughly 10%, not inflation adjusted. It's going to stay that way. Now, it is way overvalued. The market has never been so overpriced as it is today. The 10% over the 200 years now, we're looking at more than 20% or more over the last year or three. That has to rebalance. So in a rising market, cash is trash. In a falling market, cash is king.
But in the last 200 years, there will be growing earnings like we experience today again, especially in certain sectors.
Never.
What is the semiconductor sectors 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago? No.
Oh, the tech sector is brand new and in historical terms, and the AI industry is even newer. It's hyper modern, is the way I'd like to.
The Premier of Ontario said that if Trump goes ahead with his taxes, he will withdraw American liquor from the Canadian market. Now, the biggest buyer of liquor is the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. And so when they stop buying, Americans will feel it. We in Canada or in Ontario will not feel it at all because there are lots of other suppliers, lots of other people in the world are selling wine and hard liquor and so on. So that's going to hurt the American wine producer. It's a big industry, wine in the United States.
It's the whole concept is based on idiocy, and so it's a fundamental lack of understanding the market, and unfortunately, I hope that wiser people talk them out of it. The whole thing of renaming the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, these are just idiotic ideas. There's no sense. What is the cost of renaming all the maps that the federal government produces and all of that kind of stuff? There's a lot of bureaucratic costs to renaming something, and it's senseless to do it. And we're talking about people that are coming in trying to reduce the red tape and bureaucracy, and this just adds to it. It's a nonsensical thing.
Well, I guess Vivi Ramaswamy, he's already out of this job. So now it's all left to Elon Musk to do all the right things, hopefully.
Not a marriage made in heaven.
But I want to tell you, James, even the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico, it was not done properly because they should have renamed it in a Gulf of United States of America. Because to name it in Gulf of America, Mexico and Canada are also America. So
North America.
Any sense?
The Gulf of North America.
James, question for you. If Trump is so full of idiotic ideas, and many will claim that that is the case, how does he get elected? How does such a large percentage of the population vote for a man like that?
Oh, it's an easy thing. Ben Franklin addressed it many, many, many years ago. And he said, if you place security over liberty, you'll get neither. And the country was afraid. The country was afraid of immigrants. Trump played on those fears. This is not just America. This is all across Europe too. Immigration is caused by people that are desperate, trying to find some place where they can live quiet lives of dignity. It's not something that's evil, although Trump tries to portray it as evil. Many of these people are just poor and desperate, leaving places that they can no longer survive in. And what has happened is that people have become afraid, and they think that Trump will secure the borders. And this is very popular. It's popular across France, Germany, Italy. It's all these countries are facing the same types of fear. And if you give in to fear, it's weakness. And you have to be stronger than that. But unfortunately, I thought the better angels of the United States would survive into the next 4 years, into the term, and elect someone that understood that we have a Statue of Liberty that says, give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. And that's what America stood for many, many years.
Oh, the people who came.
No longer does.
The people who came to North America were the most capable people to leave the country. They had to have the courage to go to an area, part of the world where they don't speak the language, the food is different, but the opportunities are there. So it is these foreigners who have made America the most prosperous country in the world in the last couple of years.
Well, I can tell you that Trump's fight for presidency were very purposeful, because at the center of it is that he was trying to save himself from the prison term. And the reason that he never got prison term, never got punishment, although admittedly this is a convicted felon, is one person. And that name of that one person is Merrick Garland. That dumbhead idiot, he started the job that he should have done a year and a half later. And that saved Trump, because he's skillful, prolonging the defense and changing the dates and getting
delay
strategy. That's what now you're paying. United States, my dear friends, you are now all paying, even those who voted for Trump. Now, I understand some people voted for Trump. A lot of those people are buying S&P 500 and making 6% a year. But that's okay. Uh, you voted for Trump simply because the choice was a complete idiocy of Democratic Party with Biden and Harris, especially Biden, when he should have resigned as a president, not just say that he's not going to go for election. He should have resigned as a president well before the election, months, 2 months, maybe better 3 months before he did actually. So then Kamala Harris would have a fighting chance. I'm not suggesting that she would win because the policies of Democrats are hurting the electorate.
No, but she would have been in the primaries and won the primaries. She would have had all the delegates.
This,
yeah, absolutely right. That was.
But this horrible person by the name Joe Biden, what he did, look at his inauguration. He is there, and he even alluded that if he would run, he would give a really good fight to Donald Trump. And maybe
that's the thing. I'm of Irish descent, so I can say this without fear of contradiction. You know, he just didn't want to give up the fight. He beat him once. He thought he could beat him again. And he wasn't able to walk away until it was made very clear to him that he was going to cost the Democrats the House and the Senate if he didn't. And it was a little too late. I think most of us can agree on that.
Best of both worlds. He was still giving all the kudos to the president, and he was in the inauguration procedures and so on. Kamala Harris was nowhere to be seen. She was there, but she was like never even talked about.
As most vice presidents are.
Yeah. Non-event, yeah, okay, but that's but she was a little bit more than vice president. She was actually confronting Donald Trump. She did her best. She couldn't win this election. She did all her best, but it was actually she saved the Biden from incredible humiliation that he would have to go through if he wanted to run an election against.
We should remember, Marcus reminded me in a comment that Trump did not get 50% of the vote. So he talked about a mandate.
Yeah. He got a third of the vote, and there was a third of the vote who voted the opposition, and a third were undecided.
Didn't vote. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But those who cast their votes, he didn't even get 50%. So that's nothing like the mandate that he's talking about.
Now we're talking politics, and this program is about investing. And so let me tell you what experts do. Now you would have to consider TD Bank representatives as being experts. And so what I do is I sell covered calls and cash secured puts on my SPY, and I ask several TD Bank representatives if that's what they personally do. And that is what they personally do. Yes, they don't try to pick stocks. Picking stocks works some of the time. Doesn't work the other half of the time. So would you drive a car knowing there's a 50% chance of having an accident? If you buy any security, if it goes up, the buyer is right, the seller is wrong. If it goes down, the buyer is wrong, the seller is right. You can only be 50% right. Nobody would drive a car knowing there's a 50% chance of an accident, but they do it in the markets all the time. Buying and holding the market is safe, effective, and who wants more? If you want more.
Well, I believe that what you're saying is actually making a lot of sense for core portfolio, although I do it differently. But again, it's a matter of test. And I don't do anything with my core portfolio. It's there. I don't pay any attention to that. And in fact, if it wouldn't exist, it would
perfect.
changes of any kind. But we are talking about fund portfolio here, because to talk about core portfolio, I don't think that anybody needs this program. We are talking about fund portfolio. And the fund
portfolio. I have three things to say about the fund portfolio.
You don't need it.
Nobody needs one.
Then you don't need this program. You don't need this program. To tell every Wednesday about buying S&P and selling securities. You don't need this program. It has to be closed. Maybe I will.
There's very little that we need. But yeah, number one, nobody needs a fund portfolio. Number two is make sure that the percentage of your wealth that's invested in a fund portfolio is small enough that if you lose it all, you're still okay. You don't have to change your lifestyle. And number three, the most important of all, don't keep records because you will be disappointed. That's it.
It includes me too. I should not keep the record.
In the long run, what you're doing doesn't work. Hasn't worked in the past. In a couple of weeks, a month, a year, 2 years, 3 years, perhaps, yes. But we're talking about
Another one that's turned into the red column. It's Apple. And
Oh,
I'm not sorry that I
Actually,
own
it
Apple.
was read a couple of times during the day today.
yeah.
I don't know.
Apple holds an enormous amount of cash. Apple has enough cash to buy Disney World and Coca-Cola.
And I look at, if you have a lot of debt, I'm not interested. If you have a lot of cash, I'm starting to pay attention. If you have a lot of revenue, I'm looking at you hard. I might buy you. And if the potential for more revenue is there, then I'm very interested. And I probably have bought your company. But it's only the sectors that I understand. I don't get involved in things that I don't really comprehend, and I don't understand where the revenue's coming from. I can't predict the future revenue. These are the types of things I avoid. So I stick with what I know, I feel confident that I have a level of understanding and expertise to accurately predict the near future. And this is the type of thing that I talk about in the semiconductor industry. You don't pick all semiconductor stocks. That would be just mediocre performance. No, you pick the best.
You're talking here about picking stocks, and people like me talk against the idea of picking stock, but buying the market as a whole. And you have prospered because you're exceptional. Most people are not exceptional. So, Sasha, you're exceptional. You're making money. Most people cannot do that. What we promote is an idea whereby everybody involved would maintain their lifestyle into retirement. And
there's nothing wrong with what you're saying, Milan. I always said that. It's right. But if you have higher aspirations and if you enjoy doing what I do, then why wouldn't you? Yeah. So that's my counter argument to yours, which is a very valid argument.
Jim and Milan, quick question based on that, and I had actually brought it up on the news show, which Sasha was also on and everything. By y'all's argument, should I be thinking about investing in Westinghouse or some of these refrigerators and everything else? Because one of the things that the current president is talking about is things that will increase energy efficiency or along those lines, because he's saying that he wants to unleash the American energy market and everything. So he's saying that,
but not solar or wind,
with his water flow and all along those lines. So can we be invested in companies that are like in that space, whether it's the companies that make your washing machines or that make your refrigerators or things along?
He's promoting fossil fuels.
You're asking me, Mark?
Either of you.
Well, I say don't invest in individual companies. Never. Interestingly, Trump is against wind and against solar.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but he got elected. So that's what we're going to face.
Against electric cars? Is Trump against electric?
Yes. His stated policies would harm electronic vehicles. And, this is something that could do great damage, because under the Biden administration, one of the things he did was infrastructure to support electronic vehicles and other types of things that get us off of the fossil fuels, which, has been, I think, like-minded people have been preaching this since the 70s, when we had the OPEC boycotts and the long lines at the gas station and all of that incredible suffering that led to tremendous inflation at that time. Destroyed the Carter administration. But the other things that the harm that the fossil fuels cause to the environment, people poo-poo this, and it's hard to deny it now. We're getting these weather storms that used to be once in every century are now commonplace. The wildfires that are devastating Southern California now and have devastated the Northwest before. These things, and in Canada, and the floods in places that never got floods before. These types of things, I think it's very difficult to pretend that this is just once in a century type of thing. The phenomena that's happening again and again and again. And we have to wean ourselves off of these fossil fuels. Solar and wind have potential. There is tremendous efficiency in energy that can be established, even in the the markets that are pro fossil fuels. There's no doubt about that. So I'm not saying that all of his efforts are silly. I just think ignoring the other sources that will have great potential to make a livable environment for all, is worse than foolish.
Trump is pro-business, and America now is the world's largest oil producer, larger than Saudi Arabia, and he wants to promote that from a business perspective. And so that's why he's against wind and against solar.
Yeah, but businesses used to pour pollution and toxins into our rivers until our rivers got set fire. They burned. Rivers don't, water doesn't burn.
I don't know if you saw what I just put in the chat. I see Sasha's looking at it, but and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, and everything. But if I remember correctly, and that's why I was kind of curious with what President Trump is saying and everything, it seems to me that either in the 70s or the 80s, there was this effort to conserve water because they were saying a number of us were wasting water and all along those lines. So maybe that's something that he's going to bring back. I want to say that was under the Reagan administration, where there was this notion that we were spending and wasting too much on the internal water, and I think that particularly out there in the West where you are, California, and Jim and everything,
absolutely,
this notion that you should only do your laundry.
Remember the movie Chinatown? It was all about water.
You cannot make water, and you cannot destroy water. You can mismanage water,
right?
And America has been very good at that. Leads the world, I think, in water mismanagement.
Jim, I wanted to ask you. Well, you were talking about the Trump's policy about the energy, but how it all affects Elon Musk and Tesla in particular, if it's not going to be that friendly environment to electric cars.
Well, that's a great point, because Musk is always going to be a couple steps ahead of Trump. And so whatever policy does emerge, and it'll be more harmful to Musk's competitors in the EV industry than to Musk himself.
But Trump and Musk are friends, aren't they? Musk has a lot of influence.
Right now, Musk is the man. Yeah. And so whatever policies will be developed, Musk will be in on developing them, and he will profit from them. Believe me, even if his competitors do not.
Yeah. Now, James, you own a Tesla.
Yes, I do.
Is it the best car you ever owned?
Yes, it is.
I ask all Tesla owners when I go to refuel to recharge and talk to them, best car they ever owned. The only reason some of them would not buy another one is because of Musk himself. Yeah.
That's actually, you're talking to somebody who says that. I love it. I'd never buy another one.
Because you have a Tesla? Because I know another friend of mine that has an EV, but his is not a Tesla. It's one of the competitors and all along those lines. And he actually loves his because both he, and I think I mentioned it on the show before, both he and his wife own it. And they find it to have maximum efficiency and all along those lines. So they are big fans of it, but it is not a Tesla EV. It's one of
I haven't been in a gas station in 5 years.
Very, very good. No. I'm still old-fashioned. I still have Mercedes, and
so is my wife.
So perfectly, and I want to get another car. I get tired of this, but it runs perfectly. And it doesn't cost me almost anything in maintenance once a year. It costs me $125.
Yeah.
That's all. It's an hour and a half, and that's done for a year. Because the other cars that I used to own, it's twice a year. You have to do maintenance. And this one once a year. I have next one is May 1st, like around the time.
And my first car was a Toyota Corolla. This is back in the 70s. And it cost me $5 to fill it up. Never broke down. I loved it. So,
yeah, they were making good cars.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, I got you beat. Did you ever watch the? Because I've only had one car, and it was the car that I had when I was working at a newspaper and everything down in Florida. But did you ever watch the movie Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you remember that car, that's what I had. It was like that same model. So it's like one of those sports cars that was kind of like that era that was very popular in that.
Right.
The biggest competition for Tesla is not other electric cars, but the well-made standard cars that exist today. Nobody's making them anymore. Everybody's going into electric cars. But cars recently have been so well made that people like Sasha like to stay with them and
Sure.
You won't have a choice someday, Sasha.
Look, I don't drive much, except occasionally I drive to Collingwood, where you be. But other than that, I don't drive a lot, really. So
Riding a bicycle is the best thing.
mileage is irrelevant to me.
It's the electric bikes now that I see all over.
They're all over. They're all over Durham.
Yeah. Anyway, we're living in a very interesting time. The investing is very, very interesting. I found the more I think about what Milan you were saying before about the majority of people and how to help them and so on, and it should be level playing field. So there probably would be resentment against people like myself or Jim because they are doing all the right things and they're following all the rules, making 6%, 7 at the best. And here are two people who are not following the same rules, who are not doing and making 25 times as much, if not more. And that makes me worry about that. It's kind of almost a Marxist agenda that the majority of people, we have to cater to them and whatever they are doing. And that is the right way. And whatever some people are doing much better than that, in Soviet times, which I was born with, the tendency was to hit these outliers, get everything from them, and make them equal to all other people. So this is a key question that I'm trying to find.
Well, this was the motivation for many of the pogroms against Jews. Jews had money, and they were taken from whenever they got it. People got angry at them and took it.
Yeah. So again, there are some people. I see some working on a bus station. They fill the tanks of cars. Some of them, after the work, they're going to bars and drinking beer, watching television for the rest of the day, and then start doing the same thing next day. There are some other people who are trying to figure out what do I have to do to own gas station? How does it work? How do I have to put some money together, get loan from the bank, talk to the owner that I want to buy it?
They must be Jewish. You know, Sasha was talking about Jewish people make up less than 1/5 of 1% of the world's population. 1/5 of 1%. 1/2 of world chess champions were Jewish. 1/3 of Nobel Prize winners are Jewish. What are they doing that the rest of us are? They're into education.
They're into education, but they're also into ownership. As Sasha was just saying, that's actually one of the questions that I usually ask even if I go to a restaurant, because a lot of times the managers are there, and I oftentimes will ask them their goals and everything. And I've seen quite a few, including some Latin American ladies, that is their goal, is to not just work at the restaurant, but to own the restaurant. So they're actually looking at ways to actually take over management and to be the owners of the restaurant, maybe not the one that they are at because there's somebody that already owns it, but they are looking at other chains.
We were talking films earlier, Mark, and that's risky business. Restaurant management.
Yeah, film is restaurants is very risky business. There was also a great movie and everything. By the way, that car that I was referring to earlier was the Gran Torino, and it was in Starsky and Hutch and not Dukes of Hazzard. But they were both considered.
Clint Eastwood made a movie called that.
Yeah. In Toronto many years ago, I had a friend of mine. He was a real estate agent, and he was involved in buying, selling businesses or so on. So he told me once that if there is a restaurant which went bankrupt, and regardless who will, and if it was owned by Greek people, nobody will succeed in this particular location because Greeks are working 19 hours a day, all their families, and they have large families as usual. And if they couldn't succeed in that location, nobody ever will. Just don't do it. Yep. So always when you're buying a restaurant, find out who are the owners or previous owners.
No, I can tell you that,
walk away.
Yeah, and it's a good thing to walk away because I can tell you that just around the corner from me, not to put it in parochial or local terms and everything, but there are 2 empty restaurant spots, and they've been empty now for almost 2 years because it is expensive real estate because it's in near a expensive campus because it's near the Duke campus. And like I said, I think the last thing it was a seafood restaurant, and before that it was a TGIF. But I think it's been empty for 2 years because nobody is willing to take that risk. To your point, Jim, and everything, they're sitting there like, no, that's some good property, but I am not trying to take that chance.
Okay, Mark, here's a suggestion, free of charge.
Yes.
Whoever will buy this location and will try to establish a restaurant, use a novel concept. Use lineups for bicycle and the motorcycle, so they could stay there, get food, eat right there, and move forward. So then you will have a large turnover. You will have something that no other location would provide. And if your food is mediocre, just eatable, let's put it this way, so you already have business.
Yeah. That's what the concept of truck diners was all about.
Yep, that was literally the concept of truck diners. Well, instead of truckers, Sasha is saying go for the bicyclists and those folks that have got those electronic vehicles. And like I said, I see quite a number of them throughout the North Carolina and everything. So yeah, it could be something to cater to that particular market. So they don't have any.
If I was younger, I would have an electric bicycle because I'm like Sasha. I don't drive that much, and you know, the shops are just a little far for me to walk. I can walk to them, but carrying stuff back would be too much for me. But if I had an electric bicycle, that would be all I needed, really.
Yeah, but then where we would put your purchases? You would have to your hands.
A basket. Yeah,
they have baskets in them.
Have a basket.
Yeah.
I ride a bike most of the time because parking is easy.
Yes, parking is. I live in what we call Menlo Park.
No,
Menlo Park. And it's going to get worse because they're now passing legislation to build affordable housing and converting parking lots into affordable housing. So how are you going to park the shop? You know, it's very controversial. But you know, even in the heart of Silicon Valley, where there's a tremendous amount of wealth, there are all sorts of. There's problems with homelessness. There's problems. I heard someone say, you know, we didn't used to have a problem with homeless in my day. We were called vagrants.
Or hobos. That
so
term
some of these problems are long-standing, but there's still the issue of tremendous wealth right next to poverty is something that we just haven't dealt with as a country.
We haven't dealt with it for a while, Jim. But one of my favorite shows is a North Carolina-based show, and it had a character that was very much into that hobo lifestyle. So anybody that is familiar with North Carolina knows the show Andy Griffin, and definitely Otis was totally a hobo and all along those lines. So he would have been considered a vagrant in this day and time.
Yeah, hobo has a charm to it.
Okay, listen, thank you very much for today's program. I wanted to discuss or at least explain my latest trades for the last day, 2, 3 a week. So, but seems to me that people more interested in learning how to make 6%.
Okay.
Okay, so
covered calls and cash covered puts.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to fight the sort of desires of the people and our listeners esteemed. So those who want to make 6%, you know how to do it. Those who want to learn how to make 240%, they will not be able to do it before I will explain how I do it. But our time is up, and I will see you next week, same place, same time. Have a good luck in your trading, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Sasha. Bye-bye.
Until next week. Thank you.